Married Tooth, or CMT, as it's probably easier to call it. It's not that rare, but even some doctors and nurses don't know about it. Richard Chrimes was diagnosed 20 years ago. He spoke to Genevieve Tudor.
Most people don't really know what it is or understand what it is, and as soon as they hear the word tooth, they assume it's some sort of dental condition. But it is a neurological condition that affects basically the feet, the lower legs, hands and the forearms. You have a lack of sensation, so you can't feel pain. You can, say, burn yourself or cut yourself and not feel it at all. You end up with the muscles wasting gradually over a long period of time. It's a slowly progressive condition, essentially.
Tell me about you. When did you find out you had it?
I was actually diagnosed when I was 25. There's two main types, type 1 and type 2. I've got type 2, which tends to be diagnosed a little bit later. Although I can trace the start of the symptoms probably back to when I was about 16 or 17, and the lack of sensation in the feet. I don't know if it's just stubbornness and being a bloke, you tend to not want to go to see the doctor. It only became a real problem when I was starting to burn my hands, when I was doing cooking without noticing and tripping over paving slabs. That's what caused me to go to the GP about it, and he noticed straight away. He said it was a neurological condition and sent me for the tests. Had the diagnostic tests, and it was all diagnosed very quickly. I think on the initial diagnosis, the first thoughts are automatically going to be negative. You assume you're not going to have any quality of life. It's quite a nasty condition. If you go away, actually do a bit of research on the condition, you can see that it's very slowly progressive, so you can have plenty of time to adapt. And there is plenty of help out there as well. So it's not the end of the world. You can still have a fairly decent quality of life.
But you were an athlete.
Yes, I used to do a lot of sport. I used to play professional basketball and county rugby and athletics. So that was a big shock, the fact that suddenly you're going from a position where you're reasonably athletic to a position where your muscles are wasting away and certain things you can't do. But again, even now, even though I can't walk, I'm reliant on a wheelchair when I go out now, need people to propel me in the wheelchair, I can still swim. I do try and keep fit. That is one of the most important things with this sort of condition, is that you don't sit there feeling sorry for yourself, become a couch potato, put a lot of weight on, because that puts more pressure on your wasting muscles. So to keep fit is very important, not just physically but also for mentally as well. I think it helps clear your mind.
It's hereditary, isn't it? Is that right?
It is a hereditary condition, yeah. My brother's also been diagnosed with this. He's not quite so serious as me, although he's still quite badly affected, but he can still work. Normally have a 50% chance of passing on the affected gene. After that, it's pretty much pot luck how you're affected. You can be affected very mildly, or you can end up possibly being in a wheelchair.
And as Richard says, it's important to stay positive when you're dealing with a condition that changes your life so radically like that. When you've been diagnosed with something and there's no cure, you just got to live with it day in, day out. Later in the show, you'll get to hear from the local support group for people who are suffering with CMT. Now, earlier in the show, you may have heard Richard Chrimes talking about how he deals with Charcot-Marie Tooth condition, or CMT. It's a neurological disorder. It's usually passed through families, and it can mean you end up in a wheelchair. Karen Butcher is part of the CMT support group and can tell you more about what it is and how it can be diagnosed. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning.
So part of the problem is that CMT is very difficult to diagnose because it's a group of conditions, isn't it?
In some ways, yes. I mean, there are very specific ways of testing it. Once people get to a neurologist who actually even thinks to look for it, that's the problem. It's not too difficult to diagnose if someone actually thinks, let's test for CMT. But it's getting to that point that can take a long, long while.
Do you have the condition?
I do, yes.
So is it hereditary? Have you tracked it back in your family?
Yes, my children are actually the sixth generation in our family that we can trace.
Did it affect your decision to have children in the first place because it is a hereditary condition?
No, it didn't. I could never imagine the thought of not having children. So I mean, I knew what the risks were. I had counselling when I was a teenager, and so I knew what the risks were, and my husband and I were happy to take that risk regardless. And as it so happens, both of them have the genetic defect, but we were happy to go along with that. I've never seen it as a big problem. I'm not severely affected. I mean, it's sort of mild to moderate, they call me, I suppose. But so it's never worried me about having children and passing it on.
Let's talk about the support group. How long has it been going?
It's been going for 26 years now, but I suppose we've really grown in the last 5 to 10 since the internet has become the main way of people finding out anything these days. It's so yes, but we've been around for quite a long time.
So what sort of help do you offer?
Personal contact by phone or email or letters, and we produce a magazine 3 times a year that we send to all our members. We do sort of e-newsletters and things like that. We also have an annual conference where we have experts in the condition, various aspects of the condition, come to talk to members, which is always fun. I've been to so many now; it's like a family reunion because I know most of the people there. But however anybody wants, really. I mean, we use Facebook an awful lot now for support because it doesn't everybody. So I spend a lot of time on Facebook answering people's questions and trying to point them in the right direction of whatever help that they need.
So if anyone wants to find out any more about it, is that the best way to go about doing it, or do you have another website that's available?
We do have a proper website which is at www.cmt.org.uk, and there's lots and lots of information on there about CMT and how to live with it, really. Things about information about benefits and other sort of treatment options, because it's not treated by drugs or anything, but it is manageable. So so there's all sorts of information on there, and people can join online there. Or if they want to use the Facebook group, then it just search CMT United Kingdom, and we should pop up.
You should pop up, just like that. Karen, great to talk to you this morning. Thank you very much. Karen Butcher, who's part of the CMT support group. cmt.org.uk is the website.